Hey everybody, welcome back to the Caves Cast podcast. I'm Jeremy,
And I'm Ryan.
and this week we are going to be talking about I almost bent the hell out of this thing.
Oh,
The Incredible Hulk 14.
yes, sir.
Boo.
This series
Uh
is awesome.
we we haven't really talked about this
I
on the
think
show
we
at
did
all.
like when it started.
Probably,
Yeah, I think we did when it started,
but I
but
don't think we've done like an episode on like any particular issue yet.
no, I don't think
Not that
so.
I can think of. But either way, this book has been really good.
Yeah. It's
Um,
it's a return to form after Donny Cates. It feels like it's going right back to the
Immortal style of like horror and like a little bit more like complex storytelling and like not just the Hulk is a spaceship and
right.
we're flying him in space
Right.
and then fighting a bunch of other Hulks.
Right. While I'm glad that it's not that, I'm glad that it also doesn't ignore that. Like it's like, hey,
Yeah,
we're still mad
yeah.
about all that, about him being trapped in the spaceship and
It's nice to see like it kind it's almost like that's it obviously is the reason why this run exists is because they've been in this like up and down relationship over the last couple years, you know?
right.
Like before it was, Banner has always been trying to get rid of Hulk, but then he decided she changed gears and said, I'm just going to use the Hulk to my benefit and lock him away and use him what I need, how I need to. And then now this is like Hulk's almost like response to that and saying like, well, if you're going to do that to me, I'm going to do that to you. And all hell's literally going to break loose now.
Right.
Um, yeah, we're 14 issues into this run plus an annual, right?
We have an annual, we have a giant
And
size, and we have a blood hunt tie-in.
so
So
technically what, 17 issues?
yeah, about
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's been a really good run so far. It Nick Klein has been doing the majority of the art, but like the guest artists that we've had, it's Danny Earls, I think was one of them.
yeah,
He did the Frozen Angel one. He did that arc, and then you had Travel Foreman
right,
did the Swamp Thing issues. Or not
right,
Swamp Thing, Man Thing.
right.
Uh, that's so funny because he did the
You get
he
Animal
did
Man.
Animal Man. Yeah, that's the first thing I thought of was like him doing that in Swamp Thing.
Yeah,
But I mean, perfect fit regardless. Like either way, like the entire like I'm just gonna another shout out to Matt Wilson, dude. The dude's just the best colorist. He's got to be one of the best in the business. Like there's
yeah,
no doubt about it. Like everything that I feel like most things that I enjoy or that I think the colors look really really nice on, he does, or at least
right,
for you know. Like I feel like he's their color, like he's their colorist.
right.
Half of these books wouldn't look nearly as good if you didn't have somebody like Wilson. Even these covers, man,
They
they're
are.
just spectacular.
They are. My only complaint with this series is I feel like these issues are just too short. These issues are just way too.
Yeah, yeah, like and I'm hoping maybe this is just kind and and I've kind of like compared this to like Bloodborne. I feel like in a way
Yeah,
like it just kind of seems like or like any kind of like RPG or like Souls born kind of game where it's like you have an area to explore, you're just beating up baddies, you're doing stuff, you're finding stuff, whatever, and then you fight the area boss.
right,
And it seems like that's been the case with this run. Like every couple issues is like Hulk will be like, especially like the Frozen Angel arc. Like that was like him and Charlie were just coming out of where did they just come from then? I don't fully phone a blank right now.
somewhere. I
Oh,
can't.
it was right after the Ghost Rider arc
That's right. That's
when they
right.
fought
Ghost Rider.
like
Because
the war
yeah,
demons or whatever they were. So they fought those and then they were on their way to I think somewhere to wherever Charlie needs to go, wherever.
right.
Um so they were on their way to their next stop and they stop at a city, like a little town, and it's just that like it's a couple issues of them like going through town. They start out in the graveyard, and Bruce is like kind of running the show right now. Hulk is sleeping or whatever, but
Right.
Banner's up, and they're kind of exploring the town. You know, they go their separate ways. Charlie ends up finding herself in like some situation, and then Banner has to Hulk out and save her. So it's just like this, almost like a rinse repeat of like we get a couple issues of fun exploring stuff, some dialogue, some character stuff, and then we get a fight issue, and it's just quick. They're all really, really quick reads.
Yeah.
But I agree. I feel like if a couple like if I think we're gonna get to a point where the eldest is like, I mean, we're gonna be seeing them here soon. You know, they're on the cover of this issue, but like we're gonna be seeing them probably, you know, more in full here in the next few issues. And I would like to think that maybe there'll be a little bit more meat on things come that point.
Right.
Because I even feel like the first few issues of Immortal Hulk were really fast reads too.
Yeah.
Like I remember reading that first issue and I it was just like so fast, but I was like floored
Right.
because it was just so like, and it was like, and I hadn't, I guess this kind of, I'm just going on a tangent with Hulk, but like, I don't think I've ever been more invested in Hulk than like literally right now.
Yeah.
Like even when I was reading Immortal Hulk, like I felt like I was still learning about the character. I mean, I still am always going to be learning something about him, you know, like I just I haven't read enough of him. I'll get around to it at some point. Like I've read War Hulk, you know, I've read Planet, I read a little, I read the Future Imperfect stuff. You know, I've read like most other characters, I've read like the important stuff,
Right.
you know. But like as far as like a lot of the stuff that Ewing was referencing in Immortal, I didn't know. Like I just, you know, I had like a pretty basic knowledge of Hulk. So like just to kind of get all that information like a crash course and have like a better understanding by the end of that and then get to hop into this. And it's almost
Yeah.
like a really similar genre, but the style of storytelling is so different because it almost seems like it's a video game
Right.
where it's like you run through, like I said, you run through the area, you fight the area boss, you know, it pushes the story forward, rinse and repeat, but it just never felt boring.
Right.
It's just been like formulaic, which I guess it's not really a bad thing because I feel like we get a couple, like we get a few solid character issues. We get a really, really kick-ass fight scene, like pretty much every few issues. So it's like it's a pretty balanced book
Yeah.
for Hulk, all things considered, you know, because the character that's not
And
balanced has a
speaking of Nick Klein's art, man, just like,
dude, absolutely fire, bro.
dude, like,
That this okay. I'm glad we just jumped straight into the Hulkscape
yeah.
because okay. This is my favorite panel, man. My favorite
Yeah.
page of the book. I not because the other one, you know, like the other Hellscape, wherever the hell that page is at. Like when you first see them duking it out, you know,
Yeah.
or that two piece, wherever it is. I can't even
That two
find it.
page splash.
Yeah, where was it at?
No, I can't find
Oh,
it.
there it is, 3 pages in. There we
Yeah.
go. I found it. Like, even though like this reminds me of those Alex Ross covers that he did for Immortal,
Yeah.
how just detailed and like crazy they are.
Right.
Um, so with this, what do you okay, this Hulkscape, in Immortal Hulk, it was different, right? It was kind of like the Mindscape, essentially.
Yeah.
Was it still the Hulkscape? I don't remember if it was called that or not.
I
I
don't
just
think so. I think it was called the Mindscape, but I think it's being used as like the same.
right, because I was gonna say like this kind of seems like it's taking the place of the place below all.
Right.
But then again, we also haven't seen where like you know, the mother of horrors or monsters, whatever she is. Like we don't know where Eldest is. We don't know where any of these characters are like residing when they're not on Earth.
Right.
So like, have they kind of taken the place of like are they in the place below all and are they taking the one below all's place? Like that's the stuff I think I'm really interested in finding out. You know, as fun as this like do a little adventure, fight a boss, do a little adventure, fight a boss. Like it's been
Yeah.
fun, but like I really want to get to like where this is going,
Right.
and I feel like it to compare it to Immortal even more. I don't feel like you had a really good grasp of what the larger story was going to be until you hit 25,
Yeah.
because when you hit 25, you have all of that. There's just like fly that's like fucking bugging around. And when you hit 25, it's that like ninth Cosmos issue, and then you find out about the leader and all that other stuff. Um, I feel like we'll probably get a moment like that where the gears will kind of shift into
Right.
whatever the
Because I'm
actual
sure we'll get more to
bigger
the One
story is.
Below All stuff once we get to, because like the Mother of Horrors wants to use the Hulk to get to the One Below All.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we're eventually going to get into that, eventually. So
What's also interesting is that you see Rick Jones here.
yeah,
And okay, I'm confused because is this actually Rick Jones or is it a figment of Bruce's imagination because Rick has also like was kind of there since the beginning.
right. Well,
So
I
and like, yeah, go ahead.
I think it's more like, you know, basically Hulk has put Banner into the Hulkscape.
Right.
Like he's, that's the whole I'm trapping you like you trapped me thing.
Right.
And I think basically he sees he sees basically a figment of Rick, yes. And I think it's not like a
Actually a
yeah,
Rick.
right.
Because I was gonna say because I'm pretty sure at the end of like Gamma Flight, the Ewing fault like spinoff for Immortal,
Right.
I want to say that ended with Del Fry and Rick being separated.
Right.
But I don't remember if Rick was dead after that or if he just was like, "Peace out, dudes. Like I don't got time for this because I don't want to get stuck with another glob monster."
Right.
I don't know. I'll have to look into that because if that actually is Rick, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
It's but this whole like issue is just really cool, man, because it's just kind of like it's making Bruce like really look and be like this is your fault. Like this is the things are like the way that they are because of what you did.
Right.
So and this is like the first like a it's almost like therapy for him because now that he realizes like he even says it like I've done bad things too many and I don't know how to make it right, you know? And so maybe this is like him taking that first step and being like, hey, maybe I need to like not mess with Hulk anymore.
Right.
Because it literally only ever leads to disaster. Like you think at this point these two would just kind of work it out, but if they work it out, it doesn't make for cool storytelling like this. So
Yeah, and I kind of like how he kind of changed the art a little bit when it goes to the flashback right here of like,
yeah, it kind of has that like oddly
yeah,
vibe to it.
it does.
Yeah. What I was gonna say about this little because like this is like a reference to a I can't where is it? This like guy right here.
Yeah.
It's like a reference to like a classic piece of art.
Oh, is it?
Um, yeah, and I cannot remember the name of the piece for the life of me. But regardless, you see this same thing in Berserk. So like there's a moment in Berserk, and this whole like hellscape kind of reminds me of like so in Berserk, like there's this thing called the eclipse, and that's when the god hand come down and they like make the sacrifices and do all that stuff. But it's like when Earth, you know, and like the astral planes like they sit on top of each other and they basically like merge and it's just at this one point where the eclipse is at and it just distorts the entire area so it's just like kind of like a hellscape like the Hulkscape. It's just awful, disgusting, whatever. There's demons everywhere. um there's a moment later on in the series and when it's basically the main bad guy Griffith, he's been kind of orchestrating events to a point to where it gets to this ruler of one of the empires in the world has like made it so that he's like basically turned himself into one like an artificial member of the god hand. Like he's found like other means to basically give himself their power.
Right.
But what in doing so he like starts to get a lot of attention from those forces. So there's another like it's like a kind of like a side character. He's like kind of neutral. We don't really know what his purpose is going to be in the end, but it's the Skull Knight, and he comes in and like hacks him. But after Griffith's fight with him, and he ends up opening up like the doorway between like the dimensions, and they overlap, and they like merge. So like that realm has now come to Earth, and they exist together. And where this was all going is you see this thing in it in one of the images But you see like a bunch of stuff like this, like these giant monsters
Yeah.
in this, like they're very similar. Like you see like dragons and other kinds of demons that just are just appearing because of this event.
Right.
So, and I don't know if that reference was like intentional or if some of these are intentional. I would love to ask Philip Kennedy Johnson because even like his last God book kind of feels like there are some Berserk references in there. So I would love to chat with him about like if we could ever interview him or if we
Yeah.
could like if I could get to meet him at a con, like I would love to ask him those questions. Like I just think, and maybe it's just me being such a big fan of Berserk that I'm just finding references in like other comics, but like it's referenced everywhere. Like it's such a
Yeah.
popular
Wouldn't
like
surprise me.
story. So like
Wouldn't.
I don't know. Berserk tangent over. I just think that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh I what do you think is next for all this?
For all this, I mean,
Because like we're kind of left with like Betty is kind of giving him a choice, you know?
do you think
Uh
that's real?
I, I, I honestly I think I do. I do. I do think it's real because we don't know because Bruce just got, hit by a truck
Right.
prior to this. So we don't know like if that was his physical body, like because the Hulk is out, or what the situation was, or if he was dead and the Hulk is just, I don't know. We'll probably get the other side of this at some point, but
Right. Because even in this, he says like, "You're him," and she's like, "No, Bruce, it's Betty. Hulk can't see me. He doesn't know I'm here." So even
yeah,
Bruce is like, "Are you just a figment of Bruce, like a figment of Hulk just trying to mess with me?" Or,
yeah, I
but I doubt it because I doubt a figment of Hulk would try to be separating them.
yeah, it's weird, man, because like I'm not sure. Like obviously, it's very very much playing into like the mark of the beast kind of thing, oh shoot, what happened? He disappeared.
Uh-oh, I'm right here. Uh
The whole thing just disappeared from my screen.
oh.
My mouse was gone too. There we go. All right.
There.
uh yeah,
Yeah, pretty much the eldest, just to catch everybody up, the eldest was basically trying to, basically for the Mother of Horrors, trying to basically get Hulk so that they could basically awaken the Mother of Horrors through the One Below
yeah,
All.
I mean
More
that's
or
pretty
less
much
what
how I
we've
understand it.
seen in cosmology is that when the One Above All created everything, he saw the Mother of Horrors, who was the one thing that he didn't create, and basically upon seeing her created the One Below All to basically protect himself. That's basically what was shown in basically the, because another problem with Philip Kennedy Johnson not having many pages. That's why we got those, like, in like the first 10 issues, like those solid like wall of text that explains the lore, you know what I mean? So in those like walls of text is where we find out the lore of the One Below All, the One Above All, and the Mother of Horrors, basically. Now basically the eldest is using Betty as a means to offer Bruce a means to break with the Hulk and give the Hulk to them. Or
Yeah. uh the One Below All, so like it almost seems like not only did he create the above all create the One Below All as a way to like protect himself from her, but it almost seems like he created that version of himself so there wouldn't be like a power vacuum,
right,
because like if like obviously he couldn't be both like the god, like the good god of light for everything while also being that.
right,
So like he creates this other aspect of himself because it's kind of an interesting take on the One Above All, because for most, at least how I understand it, it's he's been like he only kind of shows up when he deems it necessary, or like to give some kind of profound, or even when characters just stumble upon him, like in Fantastic Four, when they meet him and he's Kirby, or
Right,
like when in Defenders Beyond they meet him at the House of Ideas, and he gives the Defenders the division
right.
of like Enigma and all that.
When he talks to Hulk in Immortal Hulk, when
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's just like he makes himself seen or known to certain beings. Uh,
Spider-Man too. Came down and
yeah,
talked to Peter.
Spider-Man too. Yeah, and he put to his Uncle Ben, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So like, there are moments where he comes down and speaks to these characters, and it's like these like profound, like really important moments for them, kind of. But then, how can he be that, but also be like the most evil being in the Marvel universe,
right,
other than to make himself have a Hulk.
right.
So it's an interesting take on the One Above All, because it just shows you that like this like godhead figure of the Marvel universe isn't as benevolent, or as good as we've been led to believe, and it can open up a lot of doors for a lot of future storytelling with those, like with Marvel cosmology, and how
Yeah,
that character is handled and what kind of influence it's going to have. That's cool stuff, man. I like that stuff.
yeah. Me too. I mean, Phil Kennedy Johnson's all about that stuff.
Yeah.
Whether it's we're getting it in this, whether we're getting the Olgren stuff and War Journal, and he's very much very like
War
how
drones are so
how can
damn
I
good, man.
expand this big world even more?
Yeah, he's a great world builder.
Yeah,
Like no doubt about it. Like he invented like the lore book for War World now at this point.
yeah,
Like he if when it seems like he wrote their culture, like their war culture, how they treat their people, like just
yeah,
traditions through like from them.
yeah,
But not to mention he's like rewriting a lot of like mythology for Hulk now. And I think I've said this before. I would really love to see him do Thor.
oh yeah,
Like I think now at this point, like, and I still felt that way before we got like Ewing on it, and that was like the best possible choice ever. Like I cannot ask for a better run,
yeah,
or better writer to take on like my favorite series. But like he basically followed up Ewing's Hulk with a pretty solid with what's pretty been pretty a solid run so far.
right,
So I don't see why he couldn't do the same with something like Thor.
yeah.
Or Venom would be sick. Could you imagine a Venom by him?
Jesus,
Him and Nick Klein on Venom would be fucking fire, dude.
that'd be crazy.
That
That'd be
would be
crazy.
so cool, bro.
But I mean, what I'm really enjoying about this is we're getting into more so what Hulk wants, which we never really
Yes.
get. We never really get. It's always Bruce this, Bruce that. And at this point, we're getting to a point where Hulk, he's making his own decisions, and we're seeing that Hulk has a heart too. They both have a common interest in saving Charlie.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm real okay. The other thing I feel like is missing that I feel like would be a really good element to this is all of the other Hulks.
yeah. And it wouldn't surprise me if they all do come in once the like green door opens or something.
Yeah, I
They're
could
all
see that.
connected.
Yeah, and maybe he's been like closed off from them, and that could be why we haven't seen them.
Yeah. Because I would
Um,
like to see Sasquatch again. I would like to see.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to see like his other alters. Like I want to see like Green Scar. I want to see Devil
Yeah,
Hulk. I want to see Shame Hulk or whatever it's called. Like I want to see all of those other versions of him. Like what's Joe Fixit been up to since the end of Immortal?
right.
Like, that's all stuff I really want to get back into. Like, and also seems like that this Hulk isn't even necessarily Savage Hulk, which is kind of the main Hulk in Immortal.
Right.
So is this a new version of the Hulk? Is this like because Ewing really played on the DID thing for Bruce and Hulk. So like,
Yeah.
did the events of Donny Cates Hulk fracture his mind into another piece, and this is the Hulk that came out of it, and
Right.
not the Hulk that went into it?
Right. Like a PTSD Hulk that's just
Yeah, it's just another version of Hulk that was created because of all the trauma done to him, by
Right.
himself.
Because I forget what issue it is, but he says like every transformation, I'm gonna make it as painful as possible, and you could see it. You could see it
Mhm.
every time he transforms, like the body
Yeah.
horror and stuff. And he's like, I want to make it like as painful as I possibly can for you every time we
What
transform.
I what I what I really like about this compared to Joe Bennett's like transformations was like when Joe Bennett was doing it, it was like clearly a transformation. Like you could
Yeah,
see the body like changing and morphing into the Hulk. But in this, it looks like Hulk is ripping out from inside of him.
yeah,
And I think that shit is so cool. It's just
yeah.
gnarly.
And it looks so painful. You seeing like the eyes kind of pop out to like
Yeah, like
his
like
legs
like
come.
like it was like 2 issues ago, I think, when he's turning into the Hulk and you see him like peel out from inside him.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh.
and his skin's all ripping, and it's
Yeah,
like,
I'm like,
dude,
"Oh, man," it's just so gnarly, but it's so
yeah. But I mean, it makes sense after the Smastronaut stuff and him being like, I'm getting you back for this. I'm gonna,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
and it's always at that point too where it's like Bruce Banner can't die. Every
yeah.
time he's about to die,
Well,
he
except now he's on his final death,
right.
which okay, that's the other thing I think about too, is like, do you remember when was it? Empire,
Mhm.
when we got the Immortal She-Hulk one shot?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, when she died in that and then they brought in the whatever they're called, uh, Cotado, whatever they are, like the plant people.
Yeah.
When they brought her back or whatever during that event, she was she was met with the red door. And it's like obvious it's just the green door, but it's the final death. So like once you step through the red door, if you die again, you're pretty much screwed.
Pretty much, yeah.
So like will we see that again because we've been referencing the green door? Or do you think it like those concepts have kind of changed into what Johnson is doing now?
I think
And
Johnson will probably use it. I mean,
I think so too. And maybe we won't get there until like later on and we'll see some of these concepts pop back up. But like I don't know. That's just all stuff that was kind of like left on the table,
right.
and I would like to see like again because I don't even think we get a reference to the red door any past that issue.
I mean, we could even get a reference to it with him trying to escape the Hulkscape. Maybe he has to go through a red door to escape the Hulkscape, you
The other
know?
thing I think about too, that entire last couple of pages is just hued in red.
Yeah, exactly.
Is he at the door and he's given the last chance like to come back and that's what his last
Because
chance
does it
is? Like,
really make sense that Betty would be able to get into there and speak to him? Does that I mean, I don't know. I don't think
I mean, yeah, it doesn't make sense, but we also don't know like what the mother of horrors is capable of, or
right.
eldest
But
for that matter.
or
Like we
for
don't
all
really
we
know.
know, Hulk is just testing Bruce to see if he will do it.
Mhm.
Will Bruce do this? Can I this was a test to see if I could trust you ever again.
Right, because and then last time we saw Betty was at the beginning of the run,
Right.
and it was like 3 or 4 issues in, like, right before he fought Brother Deep.
Right.
Because didn't she, like it was, like, issue 1, or it might have been the annual where they're, like, looking for Bruce,
Hmm.
and then it's, like, a couple issues in, or, like, the first issue, she's in it, and then I think a couple issues in, she meets Charlie, right, and, like, makes her an offer,
Yeah.
and then Charlie's like, "Nah, fuck you."
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
But I mean, like I said, we won't know until like the next issue or the issue after that, like what this Hulkscape entails. But for all we know, it could be that maybe Bruce is already inside the red door. This is his final thing, and she has access to it too. Betty does, so that's how she's able to get to him.
yeah. Well, like, yeah, I
It
mean,
just
based
could be Hulk just messing with him and seeing if he wants to, you know.
call it quits or not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, either way, it's been so good, man.
Yeah.
I just love every issue's been great.
But that's what Philip Kennedy Johnson's done this whole time. He's kind of been giving you breadcrumbs and leaving you in the dark with them.
Yeah.
It's every issue we get a little more, little more, little more. And I think you're right. Like around issue 25, I think that's when it's gonna like the lid's gonna blow off and it's gonna be this whole
I would like to see this book run for, even if it doesn't hit 50 issues, like at least give me like a solid 35 to 40, which I
yeah,
feel like is not asking a lot
no.
because like I mean, there are several other titles that I think deserve to be there, but they'll never get there.
Right.
Like the only other one I can okay, like we'll shift gears because I kind of do want to talk about like other Marvel books that have been going on for a while.
Mhm.
I like Fantastic Four, for example, like we're gonna be 22, 23 issues in here soon.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine they're in a hurry to cancel that series. If they do, there's if Marvel cancels that book in the next year, they're stupid.
Right.
It's been and like I can say this like pretty confident. It's hands down been one of Marvel's best books. Like every month, it's been one of Marvel's best.
Yeah, I agree.
Even if it's not like my favorite, and I'm just not overwhelmingly obsessed with the Fantastic Four. Every single month I read that book, I always finish it and say that was really good.
Yeah, it's consistent. It's one of the most
So
consistent
like
things about
that Hulk, Immortal Thor, we know is planned to go at least 40 issues because that's what Ewing had plotted before the book even came out.
Right.
So like I and Venom is another one. I never in a million years thought Venom like this Venom run was gonna get more issues than Kate's Venom run. But we're already at 35. Like they've got 38 being solicited like probably tomorrow.
Right.
So like and it's gonna be in the middle of an event. So I don't know. It's nice to see Marvel let like some of these books go for quite a while. But then you have series like Iron Man, who like his books can't even crack like can barely crack 20 issues now.
Right.
You know, Black Panther hasn't had a significantly long run in years. You know, Captain Marvel, I mean, she came off Kelly Thompson's like 50 issue run, but that was like really the only one.
Yep.
You know, you've got Captain America who had there were two titles going on at the same time, but none of them crossed a certain threshold, you know, a number threshold, and then reboot new series.
Right.
Prior to that, it was a run that went on too long that people did not like. You know, so it's it or Spider-Man is a good example. That's a series that should have been canceled, yet was not canceled, and it went on far too long, like
Yeah.
way too long.
I think Spider-Man's beyond saving. I think it's beyond saving at this point because the reason why it's bad is because editorial needs to have their hands in it more than the writer.
Right. And we talked about this yesterday. Joe Kelly, Zeb Wells, Dan Slott, probably most of the other names that were on the Beyond, you know, team, they're all brand new day writers. All of them. I
Right.
mean, they all wrote Spider-Man post One More Day, and nobody liked it. Like nobody even cares. Like
Right.
nobody cares about any of that.
Which
I mean,
it's
I
stupid
don't,
too,
you
because
know,
it's
like
like Joe Kelly. They're saying Joe Kelly's taking over for Amazing Spider-Man. It's like, no, he's just doing a 12-issue story. It's
so
not taking
is it still
over.
bi-weekly or is it going to go back to monthly and he's writing it for a year so they can pad it out
Wouldn't
and get
surprise
time
me.
for another writer?
Right. Wouldn't
Like
surprise.
and it sucks because I feel like these are answers that like would be easily like these are questions that we could easily ask, but I don't feel like we'll ever get like a straight answer to because there's some kind of like for some reason they're just so they have him in a chokehold, man. They just don't want to let Peter go from whatever status quo they're holding him under.
Right.
It's crazy to me because like how can you have people like that in like positions of authority while they're sitting there looking at Ultimate Spider-Man and seeing how successful it is and
Yep.
how I still have people calling, "Hey, do you have any Ultimate Spider-Man?" No, man, we've got reprints.
Yeah.
I've got second, third, fourth, five, like fifth prints, but I don't have any first prints of anything. They always sell out. Every single issue sells out.
Right. Well, it doesn't help that when Tom Brevoort talks, he's like, yeah, and Cyclops is in his late 20s, and so is Peter. And it's like, no, they should be in their 30s. They should be in their, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Yeah, well, like, and here's the thing: is it would make sense if they didn't have like the sliding timeline work the way that it does. You know what I
mhm,
mean? Like, because I feel like with that, it's really hard to age up certain characters without being like, hey, they're older now,
yeah,
and nobody else is older. Like, it's just they aged.
right.
Sometimes I feel like that's the case, but also like, who can you name a single brand new day storyline that was any like that's actually left a lasting impression on anyone?
No. ass.
Yeah, it literally is just a whole bunch of butt cheeks.
Yeah.
Like it and that and like I think that's the biggest thing for me is like you not only are they looking at a successful Spider-Man story right now with Ultimate Spider-Man, they're I'm sure a day doesn't go by where they're not hearing, "Hey, can you do this for Spider-Man?" Like from a fan or from a letter, from social media, from a person walking down the street that recognizes who they are. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like I'm sure and the craziest part is they have the audacity to lie about it, literally too.
Yeah.
Like in the letters, like from issues ago in Spider-Man, Nick Lowe was like, "Yeah, we don't ever really get asked about one more day or about fixing them." Like you're a straight up liar.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're just a straight up liar. I said,
I mean,
you're about as truthful as when CB Cebulski used a fake Japanese name to write a book.
yeah. I mean, I think the best way we could end this episode is to just say the problem with Amazing Spider-Man is something that your friend told you, which what's the percentage of good Spider-Man in Amazing Spider-Man's run?
Right.
Like,
And yeah, literally to 20% is what I was
and that's
literally
being generous.
deadpan. He's like, I think about 20% of all Spider-Man stories are good.
Right.
Like, how can you say that? That's crazy.
Yeah, and he read them
All right.
all. So
Yeah. Enough of all that negative talk. Go read Immortal Hulk. It's
yes,
top 5 Marvel books. Definitely.
absolutely.
Later, guys. Peace out.
Later on, guys.